Barry Gibb was born Barry Allen Crompton Gibb on September 1, 1946, in Douglas on the Isle of Man. He was the second of 5 children in the musically gifted Gibb family. His parents, Hugh and Barbara Gibb, nurtured a home where creativity and music flowed freely, shaping Barry's early fascination with melody and harmony. From a young age, Barry displayed an extraordinary ability to craft songs that combined raw emotion with intricate structure, a gift that would define his career for over 6 decades. When the Gibb family moved to Manchester, England, and later to Redcliffe, Queensland, Australia, Barry's musical ambitions grew stronger, finding expression alongside his younger twin brothers, Maurice and Robin. The formation of the Bee Gees was nothing short of destiny. In the late 1950s, Barry, Robin, and Maurice began performing together, developing their signature harmonies and unique vocal blend that would later captivate the world.
Initially performing in small Australian venues, the trio's break came in the mid-1960s when they caught the attention of influential DJ Bill Gates and producer Robert Stigwood, who brought them to England. From there, their ascent was meteoric. The Bee Gees became synonymous with chart-topping hits that spanned genres, from the tender ballads of the 1960s like To Love Somebody and Massachusetts, to the groundbreaking disco anthems of the 1970s such as Stayin' Alive, Night Fever, and How Deep Is Your Love. Barry, as the eldest brother and the creative leader, was instrumental in defining the group's sound. His falsetto became iconic, his songwriting timeless, and his production techniques revolutionary. The 1970s marked Barry Gibb's golden era as he helped usher in the disco revolution that transformed the global music landscape. The Bee Gees' contribution to the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack became one of the best-selling albums of all time, earning them Grammy Awards and cementing their legacy as cultural icons.
Beyond his success with the Bee Gees, Barry's talents extended far beyond the trio. He wrote and produced hits for a host of artists, including Barbra Streisand, Guilty, Diana Ross, Chain Reaction, and Kenny Rogers and Dolly Parton, Islands in the Stream. His uncanny ability to adapt to changing musical trends while maintaining the emotional heart of his compositions made him one of the most versatile figures in music history. However, Barry's journey was not without its share of heartbreak and hardship. The deaths of his brothers, Andy in 1988, Maurice in 2003, and Robin in 2012, left deep emotional scars. Each loss represented not only the passing of a family member, but also the fading of a creative bond that had defined his entire life. Despite these tragedies, Barry carried on, honoring their memory through his continued dedication to music. His later solo works, such as In the Now, 2016, reflect a more introspective and personal side of his artistry, revealing the depth of his emotions and the wisdom of a man who has seen both unimaginable success and profound loss. Barry has often spoken about feeling the presence of his brothers while performing, suggesting that his connection with them transcends death, a bond eternally sealed through song. Barry Gibb's legacy in the music industry is immeasurable. As one of the few artists to have written or co-written 16 #1 hits in the United States, his influence stretches across generations and genres. He's been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Songwriters Hall of Fame, and was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II in 2018 for his services to music and charity, an honor that reflects not only his artistic excellence, but also his humanitarian spirit. His distinctive falsetto, heartfelt lyrics, and soulful performances continue to inspire countless musicians and songwriters around the world. His later solo works, such as In the Now, 2016, reflect a more introspective and personal side of his artistry, revealing the depth of his emotions and the wisdom of a man who has seen both unimaginable success and profound loss. Barry has often spoken about feeling the presence of his brothers while performing, suggesting that his connection with them transcends death, a bond eternally sealed through song. Barry Gibb's legacy in the music industry is immeasurable. As one of the few artists to have written or co-written 16 #1 hits in the United States, his influence stretches across generations and genres. He's been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, the Songwriters Hall of Fame, and was knighted by Queen Elizabeth II in 2018 for his services to music and charity, an honor that reflects not only his artistic excellence, but also his humanitarian spirit. His distinctive falsetto, heartfelt lyrics, and soulful performances continue to inspire countless musicians and songwriters around the world.
Barry Gibb's romantic life has been as eventful and enduring as his legendary career, beginning with his first marriage to Maureen Bates and later finding lifelong companionship with Linda Gray, his devoted wife of more than 5 decades. Each relationship marked a significant chapter in his personal evolution, reflecting the challenges of fame, the power of love, and the stability that ultimately allowed him to thrive as both a man and an artist. Barry Gibb married Maureen Bates in 1966, at a time when he was still a young man on the verge of international stardom. The Bee Gees were in their early stages of formation, and Barry was balancing the pressures of an emerging music career with the responsibilities of marriage. Maureen, by most accounts, provided emotional support and comfort during those uncertain early years when the Gibb brothers were still struggling to make a name for themselves.
However, as fame began to reshape Barry's world, the demands of his rapidly rising career inevitably placed strain on their relationship. After 4 years together, their marriage ended in divorce in 1970. Though brief, it represented a pivotal stage in Barry's life, a time of self-discovery and emotional growth under the bright lights of fame. That same year, fate intervened when Barry met Linda Gray, the woman who would become not only his wife, but also his anchor through decades of triumph and tragedy. Linda, a former Miss Edinburgh and Scottish beauty queen, possessed a quiet strength and grace that immediately captivated Barry. Their romance blossomed quickly, and by September 1st, 1970, they were married, a union that would become one of the most enduring and admired marriages in show business history. Throughout their marriage, Linda Gray became the steady foundation upon which Barry built his life. She was not only his partner in love, but also his emotional refuge, helping him navigate the pressures of fame, the intensity of family relationships, and the creative demands of maintaining the Bee Gees' extraordinary legacy. Together, they built a family rooted in love and respect, raising 5 children: Stephen, Ashley, Travis, Michael, and Alexandra. Linda stood by Barry through every major transition, from the Bee Gees' dazzling success in the disco era to the heartbreaking loss of his brothers Maurice and Robin. She remained steadfast during his battles with exhaustion, grief, and the emotional toll of outliving the siblings who had shared his musical journey. Barry has often said that Linda saved him emotionally and spiritually, calling her his rock and crediting her unwavering love for grounding him through the chaos of fame. While many celebrity marriages have faded under pressure, Barry and Linda's union has endured, a rare example of genuine partnership in an industry notorious for fleeting relationships. Their love story, which began more than half a century ago, continues as they enjoy their later years together in peace at their home in Miami, surrounded by family and memories. After decades of friendship, admiration, and occasional distance, Barry Gibb has finally opened up about his true feelings toward British pop legend Cliff Richard. Now 79 years old, the last surviving Bee Gee reflected with honesty and emotion on a relationship that has spanned more than half a century. For years, fans have speculated about the nature of their friendship. 2 of the most influential voices in pop history, whose careers often intersected, but whose personalities seemed to belong to different musical worlds. Barry, never one to speak rashly, has chosen this moment in his life to finally share the truth about what Cliff Richard really meant to him and how their paths shaped one another. Cliff was one of the first artists who made me believe that you could be decent and famous at the same time, Barry said, reflecting on their early encounters during the swinging 60s. At a time when many artists were caught up in the chaos of fame, Cliff's poise, humility, and unwavering moral compass stood out. He never lost his faith, even when the business tried to break him. I respected that. For Barry, who had seen firsthand the temptations and tragedies of superstardom, Cliff's steadiness was something rare, a quiet rebellion against the darker side of show business. Barry also recalled how Cliff's success paved the way for British artists like himself and his brothers to dream bigger.
When we were still trying to find our sound, Cliff had already conquered the charts. He showed us that you didn't have to be American to make it big. You could be from England or from anywhere, and the world would still listen. Yet Barry's revelations weren't just about admiration. He also addressed the quiet distance that grew between them over the years. We weren't the kind of friends who called each other every day, but whenever we met, there was always respect. Sometimes life just takes you in different directions. Barry admitted that the Bee Gees' whirlwind of fame in the 1970s made personal relationships hard to maintain. When you're on top of the world, you think you have time for everyone, but fame moves faster than friendship. Still, Gibb made it clear that his admiration for Cliff Richard never faded. What I've always admired most about Cliff is that he stayed true to himself. He didn't follow trends. He made his own. Even when the world mocked him for being clean-cut or religious, he stood tall. That takes courage. Barry spoke as someone who understood the cost of authenticity in an industry built on image. He hinted that Cliff's ability to balance fame with faith was something he envied, calling him a man who never let the stage change the soul. Reflecting on the passage of time and shared survival, Barry added, "We've both seen friends go too soon. Maurice, Robin, Andy, they were my life. And Cliff has lost people too. When you've been in this business as long as we have, you realize that just surviving it is a miracle. Cliff's still here. Still singing, still smiling. That's strength. That's faith in motion." Gibb's comments revealed a deep kinship rooted in endurance and legacy. We're both from an era where music came from the heart, not the machine. What I love about Cliff is that he still believes in melody and lyrics that mean something. That's rare today. He described how they occasionally exchanged notes of encouragement over the years, and how seeing Cliff continue to tour inspired him to keep performing even after the loss of his brothers. In the end, Barry's truth about Cliff Richard wasn't about controversy or confession. It was about gratitude. It was the heartfelt acknowledgement of one legend to another, born from decades of silent respect. People always want drama, Barry concluded, but the truth is simpler. Cliff's a good man, one of the best. He never gave up and he never gave in. That's what I'll always admire about him. At 79, Barry Gibb speaks not as a superstar chasing headlines, but as a survivor paying tribute to a peer who shares his rare understanding of fame's highs and lows. His words remind us that behind the bright lights and screaming fans, there exists a quiet fraternity of artists who endured, evolved, and remained true to their hearts. For Barry Gibb, telling the truth about Cliff Richard was not an act of revelation. It was an act of love, respect, and timeless appreciation for a man who, like him, never stopped believing in the power of music. In Greenfields, the Gibb Brothers Songbook Volume 1 was released in early 2021. It marked not just a new chapter in Barry Gibb's career, but a heartfelt reunion with his own musical roots. The album, a collection of reimagined Bee Gees classics performed as duets with some of the biggest names in country music, including Dolly Parton, Alison Krauss, Keith Urban, and Little Big Town, became a bridge between eras, genres, and generations. For Barry, Greenfields was more than a record. It was a love letter to his brothers, to the fans who never stopped listening, and to the timeless power of song. Stripping away the disco lights and lush production of the 1970s, he returned to the acoustic warmth of the music that first made them dream as boys. The result was an album that felt both nostalgic and new, intimate and universal. Critics praised it for its authenticity and emotional honesty, while longtime fans saw it as a healing gesture. A man in his late 70s finding peace by revisiting the voices of the past with the friends and artists who grew up inspired by them. Greenfields debuted at the top of the UK charts and reached #1 on Billboard's Americana and Country Albums charts, a remarkable achievement for an artist revisiting songs written half a century earlier. For Barry, the numbers meant little compared to what the album represented: connection, renewal, and the proof that great songs never age. In interviews, Barry often spoke of recording the album as a spiritual experience. "I felt my brothers with me in every session," he said softly. "Every note, every harmony, it was like they were singing through the others. I didn't feel alone." And perhaps that is why Greenfields touched so many hearts, because it wasn't just music, it was memory reborn in harmony. Through Greenfields, Barry Gibb didn't simply revisit his legacy, he reinvented it. He showed the world that the Bee Gees songs, even when stripped to their purest form, still shimmer with emotion, truth, and timeless grace. It was proof that harmony, once born in love, can live forever. There comes a moment in every artist's life when the lights dim, the applause fades, and all that remains is the echo of what was created. For Barry Gibb, that echo is not a sound that fades into silence, it's a heartbeat that continues to pulse through the world. His melodies, born from hope and heartbreak alike, have become part of humanity's shared memory. They play at weddings and funerals, in lonely bedrooms and crowded stadiums, carrying the same message through generations: love endures. As he reflects on a lifetime of creation, Barry often says that music has been his compass, a way of finding light when the path grew dark. He learned that every song is a prayer, every harmony a bridge between souls. The stage became his sanctuary, the studio his confessional. In the solitude of his later years, surrounded by the gold records and fading photographs of a life well lived, Barry doesn't see trophies. He sees moments. Moments when three brothers turned their dreams into sound. Moments when a simple lyric brought millions to tears. Moments when music spoke louder than fame ever could. He knows that time will move on and new voices will rise. But what gives him peace is the thought that somewhere, someone will still hum a Bee Gees song 50 years from now, and in that melody, his brothers will live again. To Barry, legacy isn't about being remembered. It's about being felt. It's about knowing that the harmony you left behind still comforts a stranger's heart, still inspires a child to dream, still makes the world just a little softer. And so, as the curtain gently closes on an extraordinary life, Barry Gibb stands not as the last Bee Gee, but as the keeper of a flame lit by love, loss, and the undying belief that music, at its purest, is forever.